champagne or rum, achieve success with Global.Media.com. Every step forward is a new beat to your drum. Achieve success with Global.Media.com. And celebrate it with or without champagne.
Started. Any has started. My LinkedIn still saying I haven't started yet, but welcome everyone. I said my studio is full of my friends, so I'm happy about that. I'm gonna have an interesting conversation today. Yeah, it's right. It's the right thing. Yeah, it is the right thing. Yeah. So, and I said I've got fun plans for you. Of course, I have. There's. I'm trying to find the drama in empathy. There's drama in empathy. Of course, there is. There's lots of drama in every topic, right? So empathy sounds like an ideal thing that we should all have, that we should all give, we should all do. But in truth, my friends, many of us struggle to be truly empathetic. And when that happens, the world's a less good place. Let me bring Matt up first of all, then Paulette and Michael. If you want to join us, my friends, the link is in the studio. The link is in the comment section of our page, of our event page. So do go there and go and get the link if you want to join us, right? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the topic. It's a big topic. I think covering it in one event is pretty brave of me. I feel brave. If anyone else thinks I am brave, that would be empathy, right? No one else cares. See, that's what I love about empathy. It's a thing, but it's not a thing at best of times. Or we choose when we use it, right? Look, on a simple level, so empathy is a human trait. It's a human characteristic. Some will tell you that empathy helps us to survive. Some will tell you empathy is some genetic, thing that we get from our parents, from those whose genes we're comprised of. Some others will tell you it's all down to socialization. If we're treated with empathy when we're young, then we tend to have the same quality to treat others when we're a bit older. Matt, stop clicking. Stop clicking, Matt.
Sorry.
Stop clicking. I can hear you clicking it away. I'll put you on mute, so that's all right. That's all right. Look, on a simple level, empathy is simply the ability to feel what someone else is feeling. Now, it's that ability to see things from another person's point of view. Now, you often hear the words, now you have to walk a mile in someone's shoes to really know what they're going through. So with empathy, we can understand people's emotions. And the and is an extra bit clearly, right? The and is whether our empathy means when we see someone suffering, we are minded, driven, motivated, forced to help them, to alleviate that pain, that suffering. Yeah, there's many parts of empathy, my friends. So today I'll try and cover why empathy is important to us, and just remind you, this is number 4 on our emotional mastery conversations. The first one was how to be self-aware of your emotions. Second one was how to regulate your emotions, how to learn to calm down, and breathe and give yourself that time to think through what you're feeling and then how you want to respond. That is at the heart of emotional mastery, right? Emotional mastery is all about not reacting to events, to circumstances, to people, to things. It's about knowing how to calm ourselves down, slow down, and then choose a response rather than being triggered into a reaction. That always ends bad. That's it always. It always ends badly for someone. Best of times you're going to piss people off because you have your point of view and you've reacted, you've overreacted. Sometimes it's pure misunderstandings, my friends. We don't know, because we haven't taken time to think where they're coming from, why they're saying what they're saying, why they're doing what they're doing. Then we react. And when we react based on misunderstanding or even errors on our part, then we cause a conflict. So the truth is, in the world of emotional mastery, emotional intelligence, empathy is at the heart of the conversation. So after you've done the emotional regulation, then we talked about motivation, having your goal as your driving force behind how you respond emotionally. Again, so I'm quite a cheap version of, I say cheap, I like to choose how I respond based on whether the person helps me or not. And I admit this quite openly. I'm sure I said this yesterday, right? I like to choose to be nice to those who help me. It's not cheap, says Michelle. He's just being honest, Michelle. If you were to put together a catalogue of any reactions to people, you find there's a pattern there somewhere. I mean, most of my friends are what they are. They're usually authors. There's a reason for that. I love authors. I want to work with more authors, right? So when I meet an author, my response to them is wholly different to my response to someone else who has no intention to write books. Now, maybe it's not the author side. Maybe it's these genius friends I have. If I see someone who's doing something different, something better solution, then I tend to want to befriend them. And all the things I've talked about in terms of emotional mastery come into play. I have to know how I feel, why I feel. I have to know how to respond in a way that helps me to pursue my goals. See, motivation is obviously the goals that we're working towards and having that drive to actually do the work it takes to achieve your goals, right? Without a goal, what's the point being able to control your emotions? Quite pointless, right? So you have to have the motivation to be able to have a reason to choose how you respond. So empathy is the next step. Empathy, I say, is about how other people see your response, how they feel your response. I might say it's about feeling their response, or feeling their feelings, their pain, their emotions, and seeing the world through their eyes. If you can't connect with people deeply, if you can't really understand where they're coming from, then everything we're gonna do with them, all our time with them is gonna be on a very shallow level, right? We need to move beyond surface experiences and begin to really understand other people. See, when we can understand other people, really understand where they're coming from, empathy, then we can improve our relationships, we can improve all parts of our lives, whether you're an entrepreneur, a leader, a friend, or a colleague. Let me give you a simple one. So today I was talking to a friend of mine. Do we have a gripe? Maybe we do, maybe we don't, right? That's saying that's any got a gripe. Maybe he does, maybe he does not. But essentially, when this friend said, "Oh, my relative passed away. The funeral is tomorrow." I thought to myself, "Sod that. Carry on talking." And I thought, "Oh no, you can't do that. This is my empathy coming out, right?" I'm like, which relative passed away? Tell me about that. Which part do they play in your life, and what's the story, and how is it gonna go in terms of the funeral? Suddenly, I had to stop from where I was going, my intentions, to focus on myself, and suddenly spend some time feeling their grief, if you want to call it that, right? And did my friend go away happier? Maybe. But essentially, that's what empathy looks like, right? It's really is going out of your way to understand how others feel and then giving them time to really tell you why they feel that way. Of course, you and I hope that people will show us empathy when it's our turn, when we feel pain, when we're suffering. There's many parts to empathy, my friends. Like I say, I want to cover what it is, what it's not today. I want to cover the types of empathy, and then I also want to cover some of the issues. Of course, I'll talk about how we develop empathy, because empathy is a skill. I said there's many different ways empathy can be built or started, but deep down, it's a skill like any other emotional mastery skill. We can learn how to do better. We can learn how to be more empathetic, more human, kinder. Probably another word I might use instead, right? Towards the end, we'll talk a bit about some of the issues in empathy. I know I asked my speakers, what are your controversial topics in this conversation? I've got my own, so if you got your own, please don't be shy to bring them up, right? So in terms of challenges, I do want to talk about something called false empathy. What does that really mean? So that people who care, they try to show they care, but they don't really. That's false empathy. And when it happens, it doesn't help the person who we're trying to help, the person that will look like we're trying to help. There's a conversation about empathy versus sympathy. People recommend empathy all day long. Sympathy, people are like, don't do less of that because it makes things worse. We'll talk about why that is and how that is, right? And also, I want to talk about this topic that's important to me. I'm sure it's important to Paulette as well. Can you care too much? Can you have too much empathy? Can you? And I know what I'm going to say to you, so I excite myself. Right. That's the beginning. That's the beginning. Who's here? Who's here? Well, my amazing friends are here. So, Mary, you're here as well. Mary's here. Coach David is here. Michael's here. Paulette is here. Max, you're here as well. I like that. Michelle. Michelle Ramos, in her duck t-shirt and her duck environment, her duck lifestyle is here as well. I will ignore that he told us what the duck thing is meant to be, but let's ignore that for a second. That's me having a laugh for myself, right? So who is here? Let me go through the audience quickly before I go bring my friends up to speak. Michelle B, glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining us. What does Michelle say? Michelle Ramos? You can support me by sending stars. Stars get me one step closer to my dream and goals. Stars where, Michelle? This is not. Where do we send stars? You can tell us when you come to speak in good time, Michelle. I'm sure there's some platforms that you can do stars. Fanbase, one of the bigger platforms where you can invite people stars and emojis, and you give them, then the creators earn the money from those. Is that what you mean, Michelle? I don't know. I don't think you can do it on LinkedIn. I don't think you can do it on YouTube either. No. Oh, I haven't done my YouTube yet, which is really upsetting. I better get that done very quickly. Linda, welcome. So glad you're here. Everyone's favorite friends, Lisa. Paulette, it's Dr. Lisa now, right? She's not having it. I don't know why. So it's congratulations, Dr. Lisa. She passed her MPhil, so she's above a master's and just a bit less than a PhD. I'm like, you're Dr. Lisa. She's like, no, don't call me that. So I'm still being me.
So right? Dr. Lisa, okay.
Yeah, it is. I've learned to write it as well, so I'm sure she'll be jumping up and down, come and get me here. And stop saying that. Coach, I'm glad you're here. So you're in the studio. Just they're amazing. Lachelle's here as well. Welcome, Lachelle. If you want the link, Lachelle, feel free. Just DM me. I'm just send you a link to your LinkedIn DM. Lillian, we haven't seen you for a long time. Glad you're here. Mental health specialist. So glad you're here. So Henry's here as well. Thank you all for joining us. I appreciate every minute you spend with us. So of course, love to hear your thoughts. Nikki, you're here as well. Welcome, Nikki. How you doing? I think Nikki's one of the geniuses like I keep talking about, one of my new friends. But let me go warm up my mushroom coffee. Oh, that sounds terrible. Mushroom coffee.
Blech.
Well,
Punishment.
it's nice.
Yeah, meant to be nice. This is us with empathy, and well, we just really we can't relate at all, right? We have to get better, Paulette. We have to improve.
You need someone with a bit of any.
You're going to have me for about 15 minutes, so I'm just going to let you know quickly. I just want to throw something out at you, and that is this.
Go for it.
If you imagine that you are in a therapy room and somebody is needing to feel your empathy towards their current situation, then the most important thing is that they feel that, because that's what they need. And it's our jobs to make sure that we understand what their needs are. Now, do we direct them away from living in the empathy zone and try to get them to focus on other things? Yes. But in that moment, is that what they need? Absolutely. It's like, do you take sugar in your tea? Well, then I'll give you sugar in your tea. But you know what? It'd be really good for you if you could come off the sugar and have less sugar, because that's better for your health. So you can't be in the empathy zone the whole time, because the problem with being in the empathy zone is other people might be less empathetic, and therefore you'll be used to a level of empathy. When it's gone right down to this level, you'll start to feel like people don't care. People don't care about me anymore. Nobody sort of is interested in me, and therefore you've got less value. And then you start to look at every part of your life, and then you start to perhaps potentially overindulge in that I'm no good, I'm useless, nobody cares about me. So we don't want to do that either. So I always say that I don't want to walk away from talking to somebody with a rucksack of their worries on my back, but I also want them to feel like they've left their worries in the room as well. So what we try to do is a transference of what your worry was, how big your worry was, what was making you need the empathy, what was making you need me to empathize with your situation, and then taking that transference of skills and saying, let's turn that into a more positive frame. So by reframing it, hopefully they leave feeling that they know what they're going to do, they know what their plans are, they know what they're doing ready for next week's session, and that we can say that you've been soothed enough to feel like you've had some form of empathy, but you've left with a very clear guided plan as to what you're going to do over the next week for yourself and for the people around you. Because for family members with somebody who is craving constant empathy, it's number one, it's exhausting, and number two, it stops happening, and number three, that makes that person go downhill rather quickly. So it's about being kind, yes, but being smart with your kindness. And it's about having a plan. And to me, it's the plan that is more important almost than the empathy. It's coming away with a reframe of that problem so they feel like they've got something to go forward and work on. Does that make any sense, Ellie?
It makes perfect sense. I mean, it makes me want to fast track my plan to talk about empathy versus sympathy. But
Okay.
I'll come to that in a second, because I think that's where you're alluding to, Paulette. So we can have empathy, which on the one hand, it's making people feel listened to, feel heard, feel understood. But again, some will ask you, what is the point making someone feel understood if you're not willing to take physical action to help them? Are you with me? Some people they add there's different type of empathy, my friends. There's a cognitive part, just literally. Oh, I get where you're coming from. I say we'll do this every day. I say I'm a businessman, and people wonder why I love my customers. I know where that saying, Paulette. Your customer's always right. We know it's not true, but as a business person, you do well to live with. I can see why they're upset. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're not right. Maybe the solution is that they're after is not the right one. But I understand where you're coming from, so I know why you're pissed off, Mr. or Mrs. whoever, right? So let me fix that problem. At least just by saying I understand and showing you understand, they can feel better and they can feel less annoyed. But if we can actually look into the situation and feel the way they feel for a second, then I think we're driven to take action, to do something to alleviate that pain. Yes, the customer will feel like they can always win John to get what they want, and people will feel like they can always they deserve empathy always. And I think we can't always help. We can't help everyone.
No, but what you can't do is you can't align yourself with everybody's problem because you aren't in a position to do that. So what you have to try and do is say, that is the problem. Okay, I understand the predicament. Now, how do we get out of it? Because we can't wallow in it. We can't stay in it. Because if you stay in it, you're not going anywhere. You're just going to stay stuck. So that's my 2 pence. I hope that's useful. I'll duck out and then.
We'll come back to this, Paulette. Say, if you can come back later on, feel free, right? Do so. I'm sure we're going to explore this a bit more.
Can you hear
Coach,
me?
I hear you loud and clear, Coach. You're
all right. Matt, hi. Good to see you. Michael, Paulette. I just wanted to make a comment before Paulette will leave. And Mary, good to see you guys. I think the key with empathy is that it is a tool for action. You see, we take actions at the point or the threshold when pain becomes unbearable. There is a point when action happens in change. Everything is fine until you get to that threshold. And when you get to that threshold, you act or you find solutions for it. In like manner, sympathy is the disconnected state. But with empathy, you can feel the pain. Excuse me. And that allows you or gives you opportunity for options. There must be a way out of this. We cannot continue like this. We must do something. The energy necessary for change is what empathy brings to the table. And I thank Paulette for that thought, and I agree, because we have a lot of people who have weaponized helplessness and empathy, such that they dwell in the negative feelings, and it has become what we call psychological learned helplessness, where people just want to feel sad, and there's an economic implication of that kind of empathy. There's an economic implication where whole governments and systems are made up of people who don't want to do anything about their situation. They would rather that the whole economy is, sorry, and then they probably give them benefits and money, and they themselves are not doing anything. We don't want to go that route. The law of diminishing returns. We want the point of change. Sympathy is too far. As you add additional dosage of sensitivity to sympathy, gradually you get into empathy, and then you can begin to see actions, because your emotions the emotions will begin to give you new neural pathways in your brain. And then, because you're not the person involved directly, you're a useful coach or you're a useful therapist. And don't attempt to start solving their problems until you get to that point in your architecture as a helper or a coach or a therapist. Now, beyond that point, be careful so that you don't wallow and then you become additional gravitational pull so that helplessness increases and then we have aggregate helplessness. That is the point. That is the point that I will stay here. Let me add another point to it. There are people who you just get tired of being empathic with, not because you're not a kind person, but you're mentally exhausted. So the empath needs to recognize that he or she needs time for healing, for renewal, for withdrawal, for rejuvenation, for recalibration. If you're truly an empath, then give yourself time to recover. There are empaths, people who are profiled and they soak other people's pains. They are type of healers and they exist amidst us. Children are very strong empaths right from the womb. They soak the pain of their parents right from the womb. They can feel when mommy is sad right from the womb. So if you know you're an empath, be careful of empathic stress. That's the other point I will add to it, where you can begin to fatigue and then you begin to blow fuse and then there are more problems than solutions. That's the other thing I'd like to add. Thank you. I'm here in the background. Great Paulette, great Annie, great to see you, Matt. Thanks. Michael, good to see you. I'm married too. Thank you.
Yeah, look, no, great points all around. So Michelle said, don't add to the problem. Make sure you don't take the burden on. Only help them get rid of their burden. I agree with you, Michelle. I think that's what Coach David is saying as well, right? You know, there's dangers in being the empath, you know, amongst our friends and our society. There really is. You know, we have to bear that in mind. I'll come back to that in good time, Coach David. I think it's an important one. Let me deal with the first issue, which I think I've been railroaded, so I might as well go into it. What is the difference between empathy and sympathy? I could try and explain it to you, but when there's already a video to do it, why do I want to do it myself? Watch the video, my friends. It's a minute and a half.
Stuff goes wrong for all of us, and at some point, it's our turn again to land in the pit of despair. But it's the conversations that we have whilst we're down there and how we respond to them that will determine just how fast we get back out again. Essentially, people will have one of two responses to us when they see us in pain: sympathy or empathy. Take one. The sympathetic response. The problem with sympathy is that it's based on the three things that worsen and prolong the bad situation that the person is in: pity, victim status, and agreement. When we sympathize, we add our own sorrow, fear, annoyance, our pity to the other person's feelings. And whilst they now feel less lonely, being joined by another person confirms that the pit is real and bad. When we treat people like victims, they behave like victims. And agreement just makes the walls of the pit all the more intimidating. Sympathy always ends in the same way, with a bungled rescue attempt, which almost always fails, because deep down, we don't want to be rescued. We want to be right. Okay, everyone, take two, quiet on set, roll camera, and empathy. When we empathize with someone, we have the power to change the game. By reflecting back the feeling that we see the person having, we show them that they have been understood, deeply understood. By reflecting back their circumstances in plain words, we help them to step back and regain perspective, and importantly, the belief that they can repair their own situation for themselves. When all's said and done, sympathy can actually feel nice for a bit. But when it comes to getting to a solution, only empathy has the power to get someone up and running again. Ah, okay.
I like that. Having that explains, and it gives you a point of view of why sympathy is really the best answer. I think, the line that stuck with me is the idea that people want to save themselves. They don't want you to come and save them. I wonder, my friends on stage, what do you think of that concept?
Don't agree.
Matt, what's your take? Go on, Matt. You don't agree. Go on, Matt. Tell us why you don't agree.
It's not that I don't agree entirely, but I don't think that people want to be right. Some people want to be right, but some people do want to be rescued. And I think that that's an oversimplification of that. And we're ignoring another important word as well, which is compassion, right? Being in a position where we want to help because we're moved by somebody's position. And maybe that is another result that can end in somebody's difficult situation being resolved because we can do something for them because we compassionately give of our own position. And like a very dear thing for me is that I unfortunately have been quite a victim of many situations, which leads me to be kind of empathetic, but on a different viewpoint, in the sense of I'm not reflecting back to people. I very much come from an experience of I've been there, I've done that, I've come through the other end, and being able to compassionately offer a olive branch of how you can get yourself out. I might not have the exact solution for that person, but many people want help, or it's not that they want to be right all the time. And I think that comes from a little bit of misunderstanding, perhaps, of mental health. Maybe that's construed that into that thing that the guy was saying in the video. Now, I don't want to get hung up on that particular phrase, but I don't think that necessarily people want to be right. I very much experienced wanting to get help. And maybe that's also a measurement of how deep that pit of despair or whatever it might be actually is. Like, if you're suffering from PTSD, personally, like I wanted help. I wanted to get out of PTSD. And being able to understand how to do that is needing help, right? It's not wanting to be right. I didn't want to be right that I had been literally tortured in a hospital. And I didn't want that. What I wanted was some help to get past that and move on with my life. Right?
It's not you want to be right. It's that me, your savior, I want to be right. Are you with me? I want to show the world and you that I'm right. I know what to do in your situation as if it's my problem. That's a problem, man. There's I'll come back to this again later on, but there is some people have that hero savior mentality, right? And when if you dare to tell them there's anything at all that might be not right with you, they want to jump in feet first. They want to jump in and save you and make sure that you're they saved you because they know better than you. It's a weird thing, this empathy thing. I accept your points, Matt. I accept your points. And there is, it's a conundrum. I think, empathy, kindness. Not everyone wants it. Not everyone needs it. Now the fine line is knowing who does and who doesn't, right? But even then, I don't think that's possible. I think, we live in a world where I would say focus on you and your goals, right? Now, when I said to you at the very beginning, I am possibly cheap, I'm transparent, right? I know who I go to help. I know who I don't go to help. I know when I care. I know when I don't care. It's choices I'm making because I'm being very deliberate. And, I know who I will show deep understanding to because I want them as a friend. And I know who I would not show that understanding to because I don't want them as a friend. So it's not just like we're either empathetic or not. It's a case of, I think we actively choose every moment of our day. Who do we show kindness to? Why? What's in it for us? How does that help us?
Thank you for that, Matt. I appreciate your input, and I agree with you. Amy, I just want to answer one or two questions inside what you're saying. So, emotional listenership or deep listening, the ability to hear the data and the information in emotion, is part of stage 1 and stage 2 of emotional intelligence. Between self-awareness and self-regulation, you would have mastered how to listen beyond words. Empathy, the first phase of empathy is that you are able to understand exactly how the person feels, what they want, and how they want to be treated. You see, empathy is the ability to suspend your own feelings and emotions and be able to fully listen and communicate. You see, emotions contain data. There's information inside emotions. So the first step is able to listen to your own emotion, understand what the emotions mean. There are not less than 6,000 words in English language that end with Y. Funny, happy, excited, all those adjectives. Few people are less aware. A lot of persons don't know what those things mean. People don't know the difference between happy, elated, excited, joyous. Stage 1 is to know what those things mean, and if you were to calibrate them on the scale, you know what it means. What is irritation? What is mild irritation? What is anger? What is full rage? And what is murder? And how do you regulate yourself? That's phase 2. Phase 1 is to know the emotion, know the data, and how do you regulate it? And as you're doing that for yourself, how do you use that to manage others? Here is where stage 3 comes in, which is the ability to listen to someone holistically and pick up how they wish to be treated. There are people who really will feel handicapped when you try to throw them too much empathy. And it's not about you anymore, it's about them. What is good for them? That's empathy. What is good for them? I mean, have you seen a baby trying to climb and then you help the baby and the baby starts crying? You wonder what's wrong with this guy? You were trying. No, the baby says, no. The baby that comes down, what the baby is saying is, I want to do the climbing myself. So there are times in people's lives when they want to do stuff themselves. Empathy is the ability to listen for that occasion. I mean, let me give you one beautiful moment of empathy. My mom, I lost my late mom 9 years ago. There were people that came to speak who felt compelled to talk. They kept talking and talking and talking and talking because they've not lost anyone before. They didn't know that it was okay to keep quiet. It's okay to go grieve with someone when you don't know what to say and just be bloody quiet. Now, a few weeks ago, a friend of mine lost his mom and he called me. We were on the phone for about 7 minutes, not saying a word. I'm like, oh my. So how are you? He would say one word and he keep quiet. I allowed him. He cried out because I lost my mom before. Empathy is that until you know how someone feels on the inside, don't take action. You can say, I don't know how to deal with this, or you can just give them general word of encouragement and move back, but don't meddle and start suggesting stuff until you're sure that you understand how they are feeling. And it's a complex balance. There are times they may not know what is the best for them. So you must also have the manner of approach to give them solution. There comes a time when you can give solution. It's also a matter of timing. In the first few minutes, they tell you stuff. They could feel you're mocking them when you just say, oh, that's a simple problem. Oh, no. Just do. They get very angry. Oh, are you saying I'm stupid or what? So there's also a way empathy works that is a matter of mastery and time. And the rule is don't assume. Until you're sure, listen, watch, ask questions, then the truth will come out. So that's my counsel about that point.
I agree entirely, and I think your points that and the point that Paulette was making it is about giving yourself that space to help or to work with the other person to find a solution that they're happy with. So too many people will jump in, too many people won't care, too many people will give you their own solutions, which is more like sympathy. And and maybe the worst thing I could think of is pity. Pitying someone, feeling sorry for someone, which rarely helps. Again, that just says, I know better than you. I can do better than you. I do better than you. You poor thing. That there's pity there's no place for pity in our world, really, right? We have to learn to understand and then work out whether the person wants support, as Coach David's saying, or whether they want ideas, or whether they're just happy for us to just listen and leave them be. You'd be amazed. People are not all the same. And I will say some people they're bastardly. They haven't got a bone of an empathetic bone in their body. Yeah, I just said that. I did. Some people they have no empathy. And they can come across as mean, cruel, cold-hearted. They do exist. Many of us know many of them, right? It's trying to move those people forward. So maybe the last I'll say, Coach, is I think it's hard to work from the other person's point of view because we're not in their heads. We might understand the situation. But when I talk about emotional mastery, I say again, this is about us knowing how to get that relationship with that person to be what it should be in a way that helps all of us. If we do empathy properly, we'll build trust, we'll build a real relationship. I say me and Matt's been friends for years. Me and Michelle have been friends for a long time. Me and Michael, again, are you with me now? You have to have. I think the word here's the word I think is missing, which is it's been jarring my brain all day, but I might as well say now, right? The word I think is missing is care. Give a monkey's side care to understand how this person feels, care to understand why they feel that way, care to, be a good friend, care to be a good person. It's the same thing that takes empathy through everything. It's not just a business thing. Empathy is a personal life thing. It's a social situation thing. It's the way we treat even our pets. I'm saying, but you have to really, this is about, do you really care about people? Do you care about people that you meet? No one can care about everyone. Let's be clear. No one can, right? The people we just not, because that's not how empathy works. We choose who to be nice to, who to care about, and we choose who not to care about. But that we're right or wrong is not my problem. I'm just saying to you, every day you make a choice. Every time you meet someone, every time someone comes back into your space, you make a choice. Do I care about this or don't I? Sometimes I just choose not to care. I'm just being honest, right? So do you. Otherwise, so you end up where Paulette is, carrying everyone's baggage with you, right? And so we'll come back to the conversation around, can you care too much? I think you can.
Well,
Mike,
I'd like to jump in here.
Please, feel free.
Your last statement regarding Paulette about her carrying other people's baggage is because she likes to share. The point of being empathetic is like offering to take the emotional load on a person on top of on you carry it too. You take it on, you carry it. You give a monkeys, like you would say, Annie. I don't know what a monkey's got to do with it, but anyway, that's what you said.
It's an English slang, Michael. Give a monkeys, give a toss, same thing.
What has a monkey got to do with it? Have you been observing the monkey, and the monkey's been what? Being empathetic
Matt,
or something?
Tell him.
Did the monkey give you a banana or
I
something?
I have no idea what Annie's going on about. Annie, what?
It's a monkey's ass.
No, don't give a monkey's ass.
There you go. There's so many
Who gives
slang
the duck?
words that come.
There we go.
Three faces. with the monkey.
Michelle gives a
There are
duck,
many of them.
clearly.
Gives
In
a
case anyone
monkey.
was, why does Michelle give a duck? She has many of them, right? So, there's a reason why she has many ducks.
That's why I'm saying it was not helpful. But anyway, on this particular topic,
I think in fairness,
he
and he
actually
was
meant his monkeys.
oh boy,
I don't know
Gonna
where
get banned
Annie
in
was.
Ontario.
he lost me there, and I was like, "What the hell, monkeys?" Jeez, it's like I took an
What's
off-road
the
somewhere
thing
to
that
Mount
monkeys
Kilimanjaro.
got to do with each other, any as well?
I'm ignoring you. I'm ignoring you. Michael, look,
Anyway,
there's a difference between Paulette and
Yeah.
everyone else. There really is, when it comes to empathy. Now, when someone comes to me today, they want, I say, go and talk to Paulette, because Paulette will make time for you, right?
Yeah,
And
she does it in a special way. She actually
yeah,
shares, and that
you know,
is
it's,
exactly
it's mainly
what you're
because
looking for.
it's mainly because she was a therapist. So
Yeah.
now she's a counselor. So like she said right at the beginning, counselors are trained to empathize with their clients. They're paid.
Yeah.
They're trained to empathize with their traumatized, whatever. It's not counselors, counseling clients, right? They have to get on the level with them to really understand where they're coming from. When I was younger, I did psychology degree. When they said to me, "Annie, you're gonna have to be, you can be a cognitive psychologist," I'm like, "What the hell is that?" Well, now you have to have counseling first. I'm like, no, bye, I'm off. My secrets are mine, not yours. And I ran off. I went to go into business psychology. That's how I got here. I had no intention of caring. Then I find out I do care about people, apparently.
That's interesting.
Yes. Go on, please. I'll let you carry on, Michael. And I said, what's the main point?
That is why coach has indicated that you're a stage 1 EI. Not stage 2, not a stage 3, stage 1.
Yeah, well,
I loved it, coach. I really loved the way he did that.
I think most of us
It was
are
awesome.
stage 1. I think most of us can
I thought I
sympathize.
was imagining that, but obviously everybody else picked up on it as well.
Yeah, most of us can sympathize, but not everyone's going to jump and help people. That's not a bad thing, if you ask me. That's life, right? You can't help everyone, number one, and there is that risk that we talked about just now, which is creating that dependency, as Coach was talking about, and Paulette was talking about. We can push people into feeling learned helplessness. And sometimes it's not learned helplessness. It's that people like to wallow in a pity. They like to wallow in that at the bottom of the pit, Matt. You're saying, people want help, but some people love being in that bottom of the pit. They love wallowing. I think it's for us to listen enough. As Coach has said, and Paulette has said, the trick to empathy is to listen carefully, listen with care, listen without interrupting, listen without judgment. Listen without even trying to work out a response. Just listen. Now, you might want to ask some pointed questions to clarify what you think they've said to you that they feel. And that's where they will find their own solutions. Yes, they feel understood, they feel listened to, but essentially, unless if you can help them find a solution, then the world's a better place. And
that is true.
I say that they will come back to help you when the time comes.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That's what it does. I mean, you help somebody helps you out, and you in turn go and help somebody else out. Pass the buck. In other words, pass the buck.
Yeah,
that's an American term. Sorry.
Yeah, don't pass the buck, because the problem stems from them, right? Says Michelle, trying to work with these people, it sees everything.
Don't pass the buck. Pay it forward.
Yeah, don't pass it back. Look, Janice says, "Welcome, Janice. Glad you're here. Thanks so much for joining us." Janice says, "You have to learn to teach yourself to not let others take advantage of your empathy." That's the point. People will try. People will I'm sure we've all got friends. They one moment in front of someone, they are confident, they are go-getting, and then suddenly when they come in front of you, they suddenly fall apart. They're suddenly a bag of disaster, but a bag of nothing works and everything's wrong. It's for you to work out who is who really, and
Yes.
again, from my point earlier, I think this is about care. But not everyone cares, my friends. Not everyone cares. Why do people not care? What comes about people who don't care? And I'll come to you and see whether you do care yourselves, right? Why do people not care? Because I guess people don't care when they make judgments about people.
They don't care when it's not their situation.
Yeah, yeah, but look, I guess on a good day, we'll have the ability to care because it's a fellow human in front of you. But there's some people who they don't care because of who you are and what they think you are. Like I said, the first thing that makes people not care. If you wonder why does this person not care about my pain, it's because they don't equate your experiences to how they would feel pain. If that makes sense.
I think there needs to be a more understanding.
Yeah, they're not in this. They're not in alignment with you. And
No,
also,
yeah. Again, we see this every day. There are people who do cyberbullying, for example, right? And they genuinely think the other person, the recipient of this abuse that they're hurling out, this tormenting behavior that they're showing, is not a real human. They think, we're not like them, for whatever reason. If they're rich, they're black, they're white, they're woman, this whatever. They just think that's just not, they're not really in pain. They don't really, I don't get where they're coming from, and that's just how they are, right? Some people will they'll be biased. Some people will dehumanize others for whatever reason. And again, so whether you're black, white, disabled, they have the reason for treating you as less than human. And then there's some people who blame the victim. That's why they don't care. Oh, you're always like this person. So they always turn up with a whirlwind of issues. And maybe I tried to help them last time, it didn't work. But this time, everything is their fault. Whereas when it's our time to feel in need, we tend to see the cause as being external to us. Which is why we deserve and want empathy from others. But it's easy to victim blame, and then you just switch off, basically. So that's a word we live in, my friends. I said I'm going to talk briefly about whether you have empathy, my friends. Do you have empathy? It's a quick quiz, a very quick one. I don't know. Those in the audience, feel free to put in the comments if you want to respond. Jay, I saw you earlier, Jay. Yeah, I hear you. Welcome, Jay. I do see you, my friend. Glad you're here. Strategist. Go on, Coach.
Yeah, sorry. Just because in about 20 minutes, I have to enter another meeting. Matt, thanks so much for your contribution. Michael, I didn't place any at level 1 or 2. You're just a mysterious guy.
That's Matt.
Coach, how can you say that? How can you say that? I just don't give a rat. That's it. I just don't give a rat.
Thank you.
Maybe Coach, you should leave like 15 minutes so that then you can back analyze what you actually said and think to yourself, did I say that? Is that something that
I'll do that again. But you see, the question you asked, the question that Annie asked is very interesting. There's a lot of hate in the world. There's a lot of pain in the world. You have to choose to be empathetic. You have to choose empathy. It must be a deliberate choice. We have systems in place, and recently They came from TikTok and Facebook and LinkedIn, cyberbullying, people that lie against people. I've been a victim of that myself. And here is the problem. When you fight back, people now come at you and try to spin the story. I mean, you have people saying, oh, you're not kind when you fight back. And meanwhile, they hit you for 12 years and they decide to hit back once and they're like, no, you are, or try to set the record straight. They say you're not kind or there's mild force or those kind of things. But the bigger point is we have to check our souls constantly and do a personal soul search that you're not going to allow the toxicity outside there to affect your empathy. We have to remain empathic when a world has gone very cold and very dark. Recently in Nigeria, I think about a year ago, a multi-billionaire committed suicide. Very rich guy. He simply jumped off his skyscraper balcony and died. He left a suicide note. He said the only kind person in the world is maybe, I think, 4 or 5 year old daughter. And then I did a research about the weaponization of poverty and wealth. People generally attack those who are well to do. Once you are talented, you are gifted, you are fabulous, you are gorgeous, or you have a lot of money, there's a weaponization of bile and bitterness against you. There's even mob action. People come just because you seem to be better off. So the people who need empathy in our world are not just the downtrodden anymore. Even the rich of the richest are having serious problems just because they are rich. And once you're fortunate, like any is a godfather of LinkedIn, people come against you because of that. Here's the interesting point. They just want your seat. And anytime you try to do anything new for yourself, people are coming against you. I called in and I told him a few things. There are people who stole from me, stole my intellectual property, stole my material, and then began campaigns of calumny because in storytelling, the hunter, history will always favor the hunter. The hunted or the bushmeat or the animal who the hunter hunted, apologies to all the animal support group friends. This is just a metaphor to say that when people do evil, they now are even beyond repentance or change. So we have gone cold on empathy. Hate is huge. You rather fight and say you didn't do anything bad. You defend yourself. If the victim of your attack decides to come out, many people don't treat them with empathy. So we're in a world that's very dark, and also critical reasoning has gone low. In between those extremes, when we don't know, when we have deep fakes, we don't know who is right or wrong, we have to be deliberate about empathy. We've got to decide that we will have empathy. Otherwise, it's easy for our hearts to grow very cold. I do a personal check every week because there's so much hate out there so that I don't begin to retaliate in bile. But there's a lot of heaviness in town, and you would not imagine how many people are just waiting for the opportunity to be mean at you. Just to add what you're saying, and it's a very valid question. On the scale of 1 to 10, every Monday and Friday, a personal check into my soul. Am I still empathetic? Do I still have empathy? Have I grown more colder or hard-hearted? Or am I still the person? If I don't do that calibration, it will shock you what I can become in a year or two. Society is fast losing our conscience. That's the point I wanted to make on top of that. That question is very important to be on a continuous. We need to put it into a system. That's my biggest. That's the contribution to what I wanted to say to what you just said.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you so
I would
much.
like to respond.
Go for it, Michelle.
Yeah, before you go, so first of all, I want to touch on, like, everybody has said some really great things that I'm resonating with. From, Paulette said that we have to be smart and intentional with our kindness and having a plan for our intention. Coach David, you said that empathy, that's the tool for action, and like calling to action different solutions to problems is going to be the way of impactful change. Matt, one thing you said, you had disagree with that video. What I wrote down, but I was trying to write fast, is basically just saying, like, where I resonated with you with that is that I do believe that I don't feel that everybody goes because they want to be understood to be right. I think many people want to be understood to feel heard, to feel as though they are seen. And I think that that's a big difference than somebody coming to save you and somebody coming to help you. And then this is where I'm gonna bring it the full circle again with David. And this is where resonating with one of the first comments you showed. One thing I have learned, especially through, I would say, a lot of social media platforms, empathy comes with masks. And those masks are sometimes really the deceit that is being hidden of gaslighting, manipulation, narcissism, false hope, just a lot of, instead of being with them in sympathy in the pity party, there are others who, where instead of playing the victim role, they find a way to personally gain something from that person's despair. That is an area of this topic that is greatly underrepresented and not talked about publicly or loudly. With those things being said, I want to also there's three types of empathy. When it comes to the different forms of empathy, there's the cognitive, there's the emotional, and then there's the compassionate, which is more so, for me, I call it like the intuitive, which Coach David was like, that's when you feel other people. And then this is where I will also add, and I want to say I speak for myself. I'm not formally educated yet, so I don't have the accolades or degrees, but I have the real life experience of my entire life. And what I have learned is that with the empathy, you can't control the fact that you take on other people's feelings. You can't control what happens to you internally, emotionally, on a much more spiritual level. But this is where, if you're a true empathetic, you will respect other people's boundaries. Because I had to build boundaries to protect my energy. I have learned that my emotional releases, where people think I'm looking for sympathy or pity parties, like Annie said, this is Paulette's specialty. I know to go to Paulette. I know she can handle what I need to unload, but I also know to ask permission to do that. And as humans, we really need to know that you don't know what you're walking in on with any other person at all, period, in this world, and what they went through in that day, regardless of what you went through. And you may need to erupt in that moment, but that doesn't mean the person that is there to at that is capable of mentally or emotionally taking it on, even if they was yesterday. I might be at 90% yesterday, but today I might only be at 30%. So you should always ask that permission to make sure, because once you let out an emotional release that really requires true empathetic support, I can tell you firsthand, it can be weaponized against you. Your vulnerability unknowingly in the moment later can be used against you in a manner that is catastrophic and in a manner that it cannot be taken back. Like the words that you speak and the actions that people do, it is like literally a drop of a hat. It can devastate or destroy somebody just as much as you thought you was trying to uplift them. And I really want to jump in because I wanted David, to hear and reply before he had to leave. And then we'll obviously, we're not ending anytime soon.
I agree with you.
That's very. Can I just quickly say something, Michelle? I'm clapping. That's very deep. Thank you so much. That's very deep. That's very instructive, and I agree with you. There's the entire, as with anything on the planet, there are people who now make money. Remember, I said there's an economic part of the conversation. There are those who make money. There are people who don't care about dogs because there is a group of persons who care about dogs. They start a dog shelter NGO. And meanwhile, you're not a true empath. You're just a money milking empath. right there. Thank you so much for that. I fully agree. And I think again it boils down to the ability of all the parties, the empathy and the empathizer, to be recognitive enough and have a lot of discernment. There are very good people who still empathize, and there are those who want to take advantage of your situation for their own personal gain. Now, that's very complex because I've had experiences recently where, because you were very kind, somebody comes to me and say, "Oh, I've got a problem with this product and service. Can you help me?" And because I'm an empath, and the way this person sounded to me, so I decided to patronize and buy this particular stuff. It was some set of shoes for a few friends back home in Africa. You won't believe that she felt that I was trying to look for something from her. But no, you had a problem. You had not eaten, you had issues, and that's me. And over the years, I've suffered this kind of misunderstanding where I offer a helping hand because I've suffered before. I was on the road selling stuff at a time in my life. I know what it means not to have food for 2 days. After my first degree, I didn't have a job. I left my father and my mother's house. I was in very deep, daily was depression. The first job I got was 3,500 naira. That's bloody less than, that's probably at that time, less than $1 at that time. And you don't laugh at me. We come from the same place. So, but you are British
It's the
because
fact
you're,
that you swear. It's
when
the
you're
fact that, when you have swear, I have to laugh, right? Because I get it as a British person.
because
So,
because you're very lucky. You're British. For for those of us who are not British, that's a joke. But seriously, it was a very tough moment for me. Every single 1 naira note made sense. So if I can lessen someone's journey and lessen the pain on someone's journey, I don't think about it. But we live in a world where people can weaponize your help against you. People can say things like, oh, maybe you have excess money. The person who is being helped is not criticizing you for helping them. You hear stuff like, maybe you are totally irresponsible with money. That's why you give me that kind of money. And I'm looking at the person like, are you serious? I wish I had someone after centimeter who could help me. And I've been through your face before. I have a problem with pain in the world. And my dad used to tell me that you've got to let people take their leap off the edge. When they get to the edge, you tell them, please don't jump, please don't jump. My dad says, hold your emotions, let them jump. If they survive it, they will learn a lesson. If they die, the world is less one more stupid person out of the world. And I'm always looking at the man like that, you're callous. But after this advice he used to say in my teenage years, he said I was too careful in my teenage years. Now, after 20 something years of that counsel, I'm beginning to find it true. There are people who you must rein your emotions back in and let them make their mistakes and learn. The second category is that there are people who truly can weaponize empathy, both the empathizer and the empathy. They can weaponize it. I mean, there are people who, if you see what kind of rumors people can spread because you paid bills, somebody has a medical problem, you go pay their medical bill, the person say you have excess money because maybe you don't even know the business is doing. That's why I came to pay that kind of money. I'm like, for real? You were looking like a scarecrow on the hospital bed. I just wanted, and it's painful. So what Michelle is saying is very powerful. There are boundaries to these things, and we must actually design the boundaries by asking questions. Would you like me to help you? And maybe we have to get to the day where we need to enter a contract. Would you please write this down in the contract that you asked me for help on social date and we date it? Which leads us to the fact that the empathy culture is shifting and changing.
it's
Maybe
it is.
maybe we're approaching the day when empathy will become more rare because you can be a victim of showing too much care. That's
Look, I'll say this, Coach. The reason I'm talking about this is because I think it's an important part of our toolkit as business people. Matt, I'm coming to you next, Matt. I think learning to develop empathy is partly about helping ourselves. I can't say that enough. I'm saying that now we choose who to be empathetic with based on what our goal is.
Can I add that we don't always know what the help is?
But no, then maybe Coach David's advice then be careful who you are empathetic with. If you don't know them that well, but the way to know them is by listening to what they say and how they feel, and then probing more into that to get a real understanding that can put you in their shoes.
It's really either way, whether you're looking to give the help or whether it's the person needing the help. Like in my situation personally, I get asked all the time, how can I help? The true situations where I need help, there's nobody to help with that. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes people need to be, maybe I don't know if they understand, or they're sometimes just being there. Listen, have a conversation, listen to understand and not to respond.
Yeah.
That's how
I agree. I agree. No, again, I think it's just knowing what the person can benefit from. 99% of the time, just listening is enough. Showing you care is enough. Showing that I understand where you're coming from, Michelle, is enough. Of course, then there's the people who want more. I did a room recently. What do you do when people in your events want more support? So you give them some support, whatever that looks like. I've seen Paulette do it many times, right? To give someone $30, for example, they're happy until they go and try and claim that $30 from the charity platform, the donation platform, whatever. Pick whichever one you like, and the platform says, "Oh, you must have $30 clear before you can withdraw the money." Of course, they're going to take some of the charges out. So now my friend now has $28 something in her account, right? And I come back to Paulette and say, "Give me the rest. You must give me more." And Paulette's like, "No, hell no. Off you go, jump."
Givers have to know their limits because takers ain't got none.
Right. As I'm saying, this happens all the time, right? So that's why today I'm focused on doing what's right for us. We have to focus on our interests, our goals, and emotions, and understanding our emotions is the first step. Understanding other people's emotions and knowing how to respond in a way that helps us has to be our primary goal. This is a business conversation, by the way. Matt, we forgot about you for a second. Matt, you still there? Please unmute.
Not about him. Don't say that. He's muted.
You're muted though, Matt. Okay, you're muted.
It's a problem with the eyesight and age. First of all, Coach, if you've ever seen a #1 note in Nigeria, I'd be interested to see that and how old that is. You're kind of giving away your age because I'm sure it don't exist anymore. But anyway, I wanted to not necessarily raise a question, but look at this a slightly different way, right? Because we were all focusing on individualistic and slightly friends and family based interactions with regards to empathy, right? But there are systems that are at play in everything that we do as a community, as a country, in the sense of me and Annie, or as in a community, as in the whole world, right? There are things, and some people have talked about them in the sense of social media and the way that things are dealt with in social media. And Michelle, I think it was talking about the mass and stuff like that. And I have to agree very much with a lot of what Michelle was talking about. But looking at things generally, and Coach kind of hit upon it during the end of what he was saying about, is there a general shift away from being empathetic? And is that nature or is that nurture? And if the true nature of people is to love, which, and I disagree with Coach in many respects about the fact that he says that there's a lot of hatred in our world. There is. But there is much more love in the world if that is enabled to be provided, given, accepted, whatever way you want to look at that, from either side of the fence, or as Michelle said.
Hates talk.
Yeah. Now, that's for me is an important factor to this is number one, education, right? We're talking about in the future, is there going to be less empathy? Is the world going to be a good place? And that comes down to education for the youngsters and for adults and older people. Like we all educate on a day-to-day basis, hopefully in some way, shape or form. But are we being driven away by some of these platforms, some of the environments that we hang out in, the way that some people see the news, the way that we tend to err on one side of a two-sided coin quite often, right? Even in politics, and it's very demonstrable in politics that there's two sides of the coin, and both sides now, it's not like we can sit at a table and one side of the table is like one side of that coin and the other side of the table is the other side of the coin, because that doesn't happen. That table doesn't exist anymore because nobody's sat with people that they don't associate to in terms of which side of the political fence they sit on. But you think about something more fundamental, and some people are familiar with this in the sense of some of what I do, but like you talk about war and peace. How many people in this room, how many people in the audience would hold their hand up and say, I want war in the world, compared to how many of those people would put their other hand up and say, I want peace in the world, right? And we can debate the semantics of that's fine. But fundamentally, what is important to us as a society? What is important to us as we look to move forwards and try to make a better world for those kids, the youngsters, and some of the older people that are going to make a difference in our world? What is the most important thing that we can teach them, and how are we going to get to that position? And I'm not talking about any solution that I have. I'm talking about this is the fundamental conversation that we should be having, forgetting not necessarily about individuals, because we need to do that on an individual basis, but we also need a unity and a collective and a community that is thinking, forget about what we're getting told and what we're getting educated, because some of that is not working out. And we know that because things are getting worse. And to be quite frank, things are getting worse. And if we're going to make that change,
I want to jump in real quick and just say, this is like where people need to understand that there's collateral damage. When we need to discuss this on a professional level and not just a private or personal, family, intimate level, and we need to really move this conversation to the level of systemic injustices and global, inclusion, that we need to have the realistic conversation that to achieve that empathetic aspect that you're describing, there is collateral damage. It took me a long time. When I say I'm going to change the world, that is my truth. Is unwavering. Nobody can argue that with me. Through the last decade or more, the painful learning process through this was learning that saving the world means I can't save every individual person along the way. So even when I see suffering, even when I see injustice, even when I see things that are absolutely unokay, I can't stop and address every individual one, because I have to keep what my overall vision in mind. I have to stay on that track. So there has to then be the conversation of collateral damage. How do you choose who gets what amount of attention or what resources? And this is where I feel on a global scale, the disconnect and the hard question, that this is where we struggle as humanity as a whole.
Yep. Can I just to agree with Michelle? Matt, by the way, we don't have any fundamental differences. In fact, all I'm saying is that we need to calibrate our world and watch the rise of hate. We need to indoctrinate more, and at individual levels and at corporate levels. I do Monday and Friday. I have about 8 questions. Am I kinder? Am I more hopeful? It's come to the point where I must monitor myself so that I don't get cold. And we need to find a way of doing that systematically in town. Because I've been hurt by being empathetic, I must not allow, because we are beings of learning and indoctrination. If you were rewarded evil. If in Africa somebody had an accident and you put the guy in your car and the guy dies in your car, you're going to have a lot of case with the police. You most likely will never want to be empathic or help anymore because you've learned. You get what I'm saying? But we must ensure that we put systems in place all over the world that empathy does not go out of our system, that we maintain. All I'm saying is that I'm watching the societal behavior at macro levels, and people are getting meaner. The parameters are looking more mean. We need to tease out, like you said, and begin to watch.
Is that because the people are getting meaner, or the streets are getting meaner, and
Same
or
thing.
the
Same
environment,
thing.
the economy?
Thank you. The economy, the environment, it's like we're being moved away from being more empathy. The gauge of empathy. There was a time when somebody needed food even anywhere in the world. My dad told me that you can come into his house at 10 when he was far younger, at 10 p.m. And I have an uncle here in the UK who got to England in the 60s. He told me the map of the years where you could leave the whole of your property with someone and travel. There's still communities like that, but they're not isolated. There's something going on. We need to watch it. We need to watch it and monitor
I
it.
want to jump in real quick and say, like, I believe that your education is critical, and I believe this undoubtedly. But what I think, at least nationally, and again, this is my own individual opinion. This is not any representation of anything I say, like professionally. What I'm saying is, when we look at just the education system, how our children are being taught, when we look at the systems that were built, like, I mean, first of all, let's just begin. I live in the Rust Belt of the Midwest United States, and I live in the city that formed the national framework for the free public education system here in the United States. I have deeply researched it. It has been structured on a system that we, no longer live in. So the education that our children are being taught, we really need to take a step back and ask, what are we teaching our children? We're teaching our children how to become institutionalized back when the United States was becoming, innovated, and as steel was being, or all these things were happening, and that's what these structures were built around. We no longer live in that world. And that is like the one thing with my DR75. Like, we need to look at where we are, not where we've been. And we need to project with our data from history and the scientific evidence of where we're going. Education, people's minds, when they hear the word education, they think math, they think English, they think science. Okay, that's great. Those are like some common skill requirements, but that is not education. I am in a system right now that I had to self-teach myself an entire local government and how it functions, operates, how they're elected, what they do. Why wasn't I taught that in school? That should have been education. But you see, when they teach you those things, then they teach you how to take away their power. And so therefore, these again are the conversations that are not taking place.
I agree, Michelle, and I'm leaving now. I'm clapping for Michelle. I clap for Michael. For Matt, I clap for Matt.
Our Zoom meeting.
You guys, you
guys,
you
guys have a Zoom meeting to have, Coach. I don't know why you haven't had that Zoom meeting yet.
You guys rock. For me, there's some things that are far more important than mathematics, English, chemistry, biology. Number one, thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not covet your neighbor's property. Thou shalt not. Now, my own parents ensured that I did not lie against anyone. Now, I'm sorry I use those words. Whatever you want to call it, you may say thou shalt not hurt anybody in contemporary English, or make sure you are kind to people. Whatever we need to do, we need to get the world to the point where we continue to increase kindness. Social media and all the bad propaganda going on has created more hate. Even though we're created as beings of love, like Matt said, we came to the world and we learned hate. All I'm saying is I'm watching and I'm taking, as a social scientist, a behavioral analyst, I'm watching the behavioral pattern, the calibration. The heart of men are getting more cold. I'm worried at how we don't care for each other anymore. There was a time in my teenage years, all over the world, care was a thing. With the recent move in the United States about pulling out of all the aids and all of that, I'm not discussing the politics of it. I'm just being humane. I know people now who are out of jobs. I know people who now have AIDS issues they cannot pay anymore. Whether that's a problem of the United States or their government and their country could not manage them. All I'm saying is we are seeing the world increasingly get colder. And we need to, at very big macro levels, there are 3 levels of economics: the macro, which is the biggest, the meso in the middle, and the micro levels. We can talk and do blue-black here. We need to make empathy an economic and a macro issue. Politicians, for example, have lost empathy. There used to be a time when politicians could sit and say, oh, we agree on this. Because they've gone so sectorial and there's no more kindness in the room as a value system, because there's no empathy anywhere, they are arguing to be right. They don't care anymore. They just want to win points. There was a time when we could have the 2 political parties in many nations sit down and say, oh, because of empathy, we all sit on this side on these few matters. But now it's getting rare. Healthcare is being tossed out of the window, all to win political cheap points. And it's all over the world, not the United States alone. What's my bigger point? We need to watch and calibrate around empathy. Something is going on, and our fabric as human beings are beginning to change and evolve. We need to ensure that we re-engineer it back. Was my bigger point. And thanks, Martha and Michelle.
Not on my watch, Coach. Not on my watch. That's why we have this room, right? Not on my watch.
Too, because they were meant to take that, because I'm ADHD brain, was that we can't only address the education system independently. Like, we need to address every sector of every system at the same time to get the impact that we want. You can't fix the education system but not give attention to mental health, incarceration, children's services, food hunger. You can't. I think one of our biggest issues, is definitely an issue in the States. I've been over the years doing more global self-education, and I do see it globally, is that we are putting Band-Aid on the food here. We're putting a Band-Aid on this here. We're putting this. We need to look at this as a big, big whole picture and then break it down with steps that address everything.
All right. I'm not sure I have that power. I have power, but not that. No, I can't.
We have that power. It's a we thing. That is not one thing any one person or one country or one government is going to be able to do. This is where we got to put our egos aside, and it's not left versus right or top or bottom, and we need to come to the center.
It's not going to happen. We have to address this. We have to do it individually. My point.
There is a way.
The right
there is a way to individually do it collectively. Is there not?
It's a collective.
There is this thing that we are supposed to have.
It's an individual perspective, Matt. That still counts. It takes all of us. And I know I'm crazy sometimes, but I'm very determined that if you want what you want out of your life, you're going to have to take on being kind and compassionate, whether you like it or not. It's a way to be. Otherwise, you're not going to get what we want. Being able to understand other people, where they're coming from, will help us as leaders, as I mentioned, as business owners, as employers. It'll help us in all those areas. Because if I can understand why 2 of my staff are fighting or in conflict, then I can begin to try to resolve that. If I choose not to be able to know, if I choose not to care enough to want to help them find harmony, my loss as an employer, right? Let me work on Michael Rivers. I see you. Thank you for being with us. Thanks for joining us. Anyone else, if you're here, drop us a comment. I won't know you're here otherwise. Michelle sent me a message. I don't know which Michelle that is, but it's fine. I'm here, right? I'm here. Coach, thank you so much. Michelle, I want to go to one area, but I don't want to miss my chance. I want to talk about what I call false empathy. You talked about that at the beginning, when you started talking about that. Empathy that looks like empathy, that's not really.
What did you're muffled? Say that again.
I want to talk about empathy that looks like empathy, but it's not really. It's what I call false empathy.
That's the gaslighting and the narcissism.
Let me show you a video, Michelle. Let me show you. Let me show you a video. Then you get the idea. We can talk about it.
We know
Michael,
what it is.
you're being way too quiet for my liking. But
No,
I'll get
he's
over it.
processing. When he's quiet, that's a good conversation.
It's not really, you know. It means Michael's thinking, and when he speaks of it, in the end, we'll be here for another 3 hours trying to decode.
What happened to kindness, Eddie? What happened to you need to be kind?
It's me and Michael. False empathy, my friends. Watch this.
You just don't
on a quest to become a good and kind human being must stop to notice if false empathy is driving our interactions with diverse others. Okay, so I have to give you a few examples. False empathy is thinking you know more about other people's problems than they do. It's like meeting somebody from Flint, Michigan and saying, oh my God, I know what it's like not to have something you need, when you've never been without clean water. Not having something you need is not exactly the same thing as not having clean water. False empathy is like putting on your superhero cape. We see somebody in pain, we rush into action shrouded in the spectacle of it all without ever stopping to query the source of their distress. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but sometimes saving them may be more about you than it is about them. And false empathy is egotistical. It is self-centered. I love crab legs. Can I just be honest? I love seafood. But false empathy is thinking I'm doing a really good thing by going to my favorite restaurant and getting a pound of juicy crab legs to take to a partner who has a shellfish allergy. Or buying an expensive gift for a child who would much rather have your attention on the couch after a long day. I could go on, but what I'm trying to say is that false empathy represents a conflict in perspective, and an earnest intention at anti-racism and helping others does not guarantee that your action will lead to the intended outcome or that we will achieve the relationships that we all need to thrive.
Yay. Right. You know, I wonder what you three think of false empathy as a
I need to
concept.
meet this man. I think he just gave some knowledge to people that probably should take some notes. I think one of the biggest for me, and I actually wrote this down as some of the notes that I wanted to talk about, was that empathy comes with the emotions. And Mr. Coach David was talking about the emotional intelligence. And for me, when it comes to the emotional intelligence, I don't feel I embodied any of that until there was full understanding and acceptance of emotional regulation.
Yeah.
I believe that we need to be able to sit with every emotion independently, good or bad. And I think that one thing that we need to learn is that the emotion is unchangeable. It's like a thought. It's intrusive. It'll come. There's no control. Your reaction with that feeling, though, and what you do out of those emotions is where those changing critical points are. And when it comes to this is where, I mean, how many months did we go back and forth about me not accepting connections and limiting?
We still do.
That has been because of this exact conversation and how things have been weaponized against me in those moments of vulnerability. I am the best person and I can show up for anybody in any catastrophic, dire moment. And I'll walk through it with a super cape, non-judgmental, without trying to solve their problem. Because I understand I'm not here to solve your problem. I want to be here so that you know, like I was seeking, I don't want to just walk through it alone. And there's a lot of people like myself that are walking through a lot of challenges 100% alone. And people think that when it takes me like you already know a lot of personal, intimate details, and you, I think, can be one of the people to testify that what people see on social media and who they believe Michelle Ramos to be versus intimate, personal, real conversation and friendship with Michelle Ramos, they're not the same person. And I think that like that is it people think that that's ego or whatever. That is me protecting myself.
Yeah, I think we have to learn to protect ourselves, but also I think equally important to me is realizing that some of our apparent helping behaviors don't really help. Look, the best thing that anyone here can do is to build on your point about educating the masses. Send it to my YouTube channel, Michelle. Say, go and watch this video. Go and watch this event that we had. Listen to it. Think about it. Yeah, Team Replay. I love Team Replay. I've lost a couple of my YouTube viewers, and I'm only down to 4 now, which upsets me. But like, comment, and subscribe if you're there. Right? Please do. That cheers me up. What's Michelle saying? It's natural when there's a shift. People get scared, which causes chaos.
And one thing I've learned is my security within who I am and my self-love and my self-confidence and my unwavering, unapologetic manners. That brings out other people's insecurities. When other people's insecurities begin to manifest within themselves, that's where people can claim drama or that's where they're able to do those attacks of that weaponization that I was talking about.
Yeah. Look, we talked about understanding your emotions, self-awareness, talked about self-regulation. I think you need those. So you have to be able to manage your emotions before you can even begin to show empathy.
You need discipline too.
Yeah, well, understand your emotions first of all. Yeah, look. I don't know. I tell you what I find hard, Michelle. I find it hard to blame the kind person for being too kind. I know there's risks. I know there's holes. There's pitfalls. I'm saying I refuse to blame them. I just can't blame Paulette.
How are you going to touch the flame until you just say, "Okay, it's your fault"?
Yeah, but then that's what leads to what we're talking about. What you were talking about earlier, where people begin to be distant, removed, uncaring, not really involved in that sense. I think that we need to
know when enough is enough and that we can't save everybody. You can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make a horse drink the water.
Yeah, I don't know. I hear what you're saying. I think for me, there's a situation where empathy is given, regardless of what anyone else thinks. Right? That's in business. Right? So in business, you know me well enough, Michelle, and I fire people because they haven't got the empathy to my clients. They think their point of view is more important than my customers. Like I said earlier, you haven't got to agree with the customer. All you have to do is do what it takes to get them to pay me again and again. And that normally means having empathy and dropping your ego, dropping your thoughts, and trying to work out what is this customer's problem. How can I really help them?
There's a difference between being I think where some people struggle with what you're describing is that for me, it's that ego. You can't have that ego with that line because this is their stuff. Maybe you need to resonate it with it differently to understand how to get their image out so it's a representation of them. But I also know what it means to be working with someone where their professional practices question my values and integrity and who I am as a person. And I had to 100% be willing to walk away.
Well, I mean, when my staff or my contractors, my team decided they're going to argue with how the client feels, they're fired very quickly. Matt, I know you don't like that idea of those words, but that's what I tend to do. I can't, now some will say I'm unkind.
That's my new philosophy on life. I don't give a monkeys.
You don't pay your employee to care how they feel. We're not meant to having somebody tell you what they feel and then invalidating it is like if this is how your customer feels, the questions are not to rebuttal or invalidate it. If it was in my situation, I even wrote that down earlier. It's going to be to ask the questions to understand why they're feeling like they're feeling, to ensure that if it is an issue within my business, I can address it to ensure it doesn't replicate.
Yes,
You
I agree.
Never criticize a customer for how they feel or what, because this is them. This is just like you would never want to be invalidated yourself.
Think of the businesses that you deal with, Michelle. How many people invalidate your feeling as a customer? Every day they do. Every day. I'm saying that's what I'm trying to stop. That's why I'm saying that for us here, for us who are going to watch a replay, that sort of behavior gets us nowhere. We must find that place to really understand where our customers are coming from, where our colleagues are coming from, and find a way to show compassion, help where we can. To move our customers forward and to move ourselves forward. We must find that kindness, because that's the only reason we exist as a business. I heard someone say earlier, "Oh, but if your staff are not happy, how are they gonna show empathy?" Look, your staff, right? You're part of a business. It means you find your happiness. The people that you deal with as a customer they'll make you happy. They'll find a way to try and understand you and your gripes and whatever makes you unhappy. So as a staff, I don't really, frankly, I mildly care, only mildly, very mildly. I don't really. I'm just saying, my customers are much more important to me. Sorry, because they pay the bills. Without the customers, there's no you, there's no me, right? So my customers always come first. Some of my staff struggle with that concept. Matt, are you thinking, or are you going to say something?
No, I'm always thinking. We discussed this yesterday. But are your customers or are they clients? Because
they're
often
both. They're both. They're clients, but client is a customer. No, this is just a play on words.
Not entirely. Because if you go into a supermarket and view yourself as a client of the supermarket, that's not the relationship that the supermarket sees with you, right? Whereas if you go to your personal banker in the city where you go to count your millions and get your gold card, like embossed every time they go in, can we shine your gold card for you, sir? Then you're a client, right? Because you're treated differently.
Yeah, you're still giving them money for a service, Matt. Come on now, you're still a client.
Yeah, but that doesn't equate to the same thing, because partially the money is different, and secondly the relationship is different, right? Your customers, your clients, as people. When you walk into the supermarket, almost everybody, in fact, pretty much everybody in that place does not know you personally, right? And so that is the difference between a customer and a client to a large degree. There's a few nuances, but
we've had a similar conversation, especially in this country, Matt, about service users. And being called something else, right? Whatever whether you call them clients, customers, whether you call them stakeholders. I'm saying they're still your customers, right? Give them monkeys about it.
Yeah, but not all customers are clients. All clients are customers because you're usually paying a bill one way or another, even if it's passed down the line. But all clients are still customers, but not all customers are clients to you, right? Or to the person who's providing them that service. But the more important point, and what I'm trying to say, is that love and honor your clients, your team might not see them as your clients. They might see them more as the customer. And so they've got a slight deviation from what you see and what you expect those clients to have, whereas what they see as a customer and what a customer should get, right? And that potentially, from what you were saying yesterday, might be the difference between what you want your staff to do for your clients and what they're doing as customer care, or what they think that the customer should get.
Right. Look, I'll make it easy. I'll make it easy for my team. You know, if you work with me, anyone who is paying us, directly or indirectly, is a customer. Give them the same level of care as our highest paying customer. You know, I spent years, Matt, fighting this battle with myself, where I said I'm not going to increase my price because I want everyone to get the same service. I want everyone on the same playing field. If I lose a customer today, I'm like, another one's gone. That's fine. Whereas if I gain one, another one's come. Okay, great. You know, rather than saying this person is paying us 3 times more because we build them based on the client status, you know, which I can do as a business if I wanted to, right? You know, I could charge you differently based on your company, really, how much money I think you have, maybe how much need you have. I'm saying there are different ways that we can charge more, but I keep everyone on the same playing field because they must get the same service, even if you're paying us nothing. If I know I'm going to get the benefits later on, you know, you're still going to get the same top service every time. Otherwise, we have a problem, my friends. Look, let's move on a bit, Matt. Let me see how kind and how much empathy you have. That's you being you, Michael, Michelle. So I'm going to throw a few situations at you, and you tell me what you would do, right? You know. So This is about, do you really have empathy, Matt? Do you have empathy? Right. No. So I guess it's a yes/no answer. So number 1 is that you're good at really listening to what others have to say. Who says yes unequivocally? Those in the audience, you know, so Matt says yes. Those in the audience, please feel free to put no. If it's a yes or no in the comments. And then Michael says yes as well. Michelle, are you really good at listening to what others have to say? Michelle? That's a no. Michelle's heart. Let's try number 2. Let me see how this fits with you.
Michelle is a no, because she's not listening to you.
I can hear Michelle's a no. That's what I say, she's heartless, right? People often tell you about their problems. Yes, no.
Yes.
Okay, they come to you. So you have some empathy, Michael, right? You're very good at picking up on how people are feeling. Yes or no?
Yes.
I make sure that they're sad.
Before they come to you, not when they leave you, Matt, I hope. You know, you often think about how other people feel. Yes, no?
No.
Damn, Michael. You've lost all your points. What do you mean, no? You don't think about how people are feeling, Michael?
No. I mean, why do I have to think about how people are feeling? It's kind of like, yeah, I'll take it into consideration, you know, bit by bit. But in reality, it's kind of like, I'm more concerned. I'm really selfish. I'm more concerned about how I'm feeling about you. So kind of like, that's what I'm feeling.
I love
the honesty.
I love the honesty. Like I said to you.
I feel you, Michael.
They will say that we are evil, Michael. We have different agendas.
I would never get through this world if I was so feeling. Oh my gosh, that would be terrible.
Anyway, do you often feel overwhelmed by tragic events? You know, so when you see like a hurricane or a fire or whatever else, do any of those things really get to you?
I'll pull a mild on that one.
That's a maybe, right?
Yeah, all
Do you
depends.
try-
If it's in Africa, yes. If it's not,
So that may come down to what I said earlier. Now, when we see people as different, we tend to treat them differently. Some will have, a kind heart for, others will leave be. Right. So, do you try to help people who are suffering? Yes or no?
I don't get upset about it, but
can
I
you
want
repeat
to
the
solve
question?
Yeah, someone spoke. Michelle spoke, I think. Do you try to help people who are suffering?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, Michael says yes. Michelle, what say you?
I do in an unorthodox way.
Oh no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Michelle
Explain
said
that.
yes.
Explain
Whatever
that.
the situation is and where the suffering is existent, I try to find the root causes that others are suffering in the same manners and resolve that. So, like, sometimes you can't resolve their personal suffering, but there's root causes that contribute to one's suffering.
Michelle just said yes. 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 Move on. Come on.
Well, no,
Max,
because I can't fix what is
most
hurting
people.
someone.
No,
Like,
the fact
nobody
is
was
that the fact
ever
is that
able
you
to
tried.
fix
The
what
fact is
hurt
that you
me.
tried. I mean, that's the question is, did you try? Yes, I tried. What the hell? Well, yeah, then
Because sometimes I don't try.
the root problem.
you don't have
I
to
solved
fix
the
it.
root problem, Michelle. You have
You don't
solved
have
the
to solve it.
problem for many people, not just that person, right? So you get a double yes. And give her extra points.
Give her extra
Actually,
points.
all the yeses on all the questions she's missed.
Right. So let's try this one. Are you good at telling when people aren't being honest?
No.
Immediately.
It's not a trick question, but I'm sure you see where the question comes from, right?
For me, it's
Yeah, the answer is no.
Matt,
when
what's
you
your
grow
answer?
up with a condescending, narcissistic, pathological, lying mother, you learn when you're lied to your entire life how to find and use discernment.
Okay. Matt, what's your answer?
Yes, up to a point. There is always the possibility that somebody will change the way that they are, right? You can not only judge people as they present as time goes by, and just because somebody later on might turn out to do something that you disagree with or that you feel is untoward, that might be a change in their circumstance or something else. But in the immediacy of like short term, you've had some experience with them or you're sat with them in a meeting, then generally I can figure out. But beyond that, you're talking about something else because it might be impacted by other things. So in the immediacy of it, yeah.
No, beyond that, you have to ask the right questions to make sure you really understand how to. So now, do you sometimes feel drained or overwhelmed in social situations?
No.
Michael, you don't really care about anyone. That's what. Sounds a bit harsh, Michael. I know, but I know what I mean. I'm making myself laugh.
You know when you said that you were
Michael,
Eddie,
you're not with it. Go on, Matt.
you know earlier when you said that you're cheap.
Yeah, that's me.
What time is?
That's me. That's me all over. Go on, Michelle.
Michelle.
When the situation is within my control, absolutely not. When it's out of my control, I mean, obviously you have to be subjected to whatever.
Yeah, no,
But if it's in my control, I will not put myself in a social environment to create that.
Okay. All right. So I can understand that. Again, I think the point about being self-awareness normally comes down to what is now. How do you feel? Why do you feel that way? Is it under your control? If it's under your control, then there's no point you wasting all your energy and your emotions on things that you can't control. So you're going to get disappointed. Right. There's only two more questions, my friends, before I cast you off all as insensitive, uncaring people. Right. So Michelle,
I've got a comment to say after the two questions, but anyway, go ahead.
okay. You care deeply about other people. Yes or no? True or
Yeah.
false?
True. Absolutely.
Michael?
True.
Matt?
Yep.
Matt says yes, he cares about. Okay, that's no. See, you do have some empathy. So this is the last one. You find it difficult to set boundaries in your relationships.
Hell no. Bye. Bye. I fought too hard to love myself this damn much to even build that boundary. Goodbye.
Evil woman. Evil woman. Really?
No, I will. It is not selfish. It is self necessity. Bye.
Go on, Matt.
Knows what she likes and not like.
Anyway, Michael, so what's you gonna say about my empathy assessment?
Oh yeah. Initially, right at the very beginning, he said, "Hey, this is just a yes or no answer. This just requires a yes or no answer." And yet, all of you have been given, all the others have been given, essay type answers.
In my defense, I missed
So
the beginning of the test.
when a British person asks you a question and he says that it's yes or no, just understand that there's actually a third option, and that is essay type. And that's what they love. They love to talk.
There is only one option,
they
which
love
is
to
talk
your ear
extensively
off.
about
They're
it.
like, oh my gosh, really?
Go on, Matt. There's only one option.
Which is that you talk extensively about whatever it is that you're saying yes or no about.
Empathy, Michael. Empathy. We have to understand how people feel, right?
In my defense, I didn't know it was yes or no. I would have did yes or no because I know how to respect and follow directions. But with that said, we live in a world where it is no longer black and white, and we got a gray side and a rainbow side. So there is no simple yes or no's with the way that society is today.
I respect your boundaries.
You set boundaries. Exactly, Matt. You tell them. Michael, I agree. Frugal is good sometimes.
Absolutely.
And look, being a good friend is often about helping people find their own solution. That's what I've learned. Let them find. We support them as best we can by understanding where they're coming from, and then maybe exploring some options, right? And Mr. Ashif, Super Coach Ashif, how you doing? In late to say hello. We'll watch a replay. Please enjoy the replay, my friend. If you're gonna watch on my YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, please. It's really helpful. Michael says, control what you can and let time, situation, and unexpected circumstances dictate.
Absolutely. That's what I said earlier. It's like you gotta when you get to learn that emotional regulation, and then that helps you to understand the things in your control and outside of your control. So much changes where you invest your energy.
Yeah. I mean, go on, Michael.
The universe is alive, and when it talks to you, talk back to it.
Listen,
because you will learn a lot.
Okay, I'll take that. Look, but I think the important point though is that there is a risk in caring too much. There is a danger, and you can care too much. Even though I say I like everyone to have some compassion, and let's not become heartless, cold-hearted, uncaring people. But still, we have to protect ourselves. Again, I guess the risk is that if you take people's problems on as yours, after a while, you will become you become stressed by events. I see people become physically and emotionally exhausted because they're forever taking on other people's problems. Even the counselor, the therapist, has a therapist themselves.
Yeah, so your cup overfloweth. Be careful.
Yeah. Well, no, avoid feeling numb. Avoid feeling as if everyone's got a problem.
Avoid feeling obligated.
Yeah, well, and when you feel obligated, Michelle, you tend to want to isolate yourself. Yeah, and you feel plain exhausted, right? You know, some people, you know, they become extremely emotionally negative.
One thing that I learned was when I was trying to do self reflections and check ins with what was depleting my energy, and then I would be able to pinpoint it to specific individuals, is to ask the question and be honest because you love these people if they're, you know, but when they're depleting your energy, it doesn't matter if they're depleting it, but are they helping restore it?
Mm. Yeah, well, you know, again, if they're not, walk away. You know, if the situation doesn't help you, then work out a better response. That's emotional mastery.
I don't,
Well, I tell you what, the
yeah.
universe will help you restore your energy.
And I,
Just give
yes,
it,
yes, I
and
believe
it will come back and it will help you restore it. So don't be afraid. Step forward in your light,
and
just
that's what
like
I
you
was going
said
to tell
that you
Andy.
wanted to
Like,
do.
I would rather help. I do with no expectation because then there can't be a disappointment. So it's not that I would give expecting that energy refill, but when there's consecutive patterns over prolonged periods that you see, that's where I said earlier, takers don't know limits. You have to learn as a giver your limits.
Yeah, I agree. As Shiv says, co-create to the universe and its forces. Be within and be well. I agree. You know, we have to look after ourselves. You know, not let ourselves get burned out to get, you know, this. I think sometimes it is the way people take our help that leads to the feelings Coach David was talking about earlier, where you don't want to help anyone anymore. Where, you know, you literally want to pull back and shut the doors and say, I don't care. I can't afford to care because the costs are often too high. You know, but for us, I think I'd say again, if you are self-aware, then you have the ability to know when you're feeling negatively affected by your kindness, and that's when you have to, you know, learn to regulate your emotions, you know, and then find a way to move forward. You know, see, I mean, when we started off, Matt, I told you, the time I told you, when we agreed this topic is a huge topic and it can go left and right all day, right? You know, but look, I don't hide what I said at the beginning. We need to carry on having empathy because it is our best tool to get people on our side. Those who learn, successful people develop empathy. It may be what you might call for show, but it's enough to make people feel better for meeting them, for speaking with them. That's all we have to do, right? You know, if you can help someone, then by all means do. You know, but don't feel like you have to. You know, and you know, to look after yourself, your emotions more than anything else.
Or
That's
don't
what
feel
it's
like you're owed something for helping you.
No, no, Nikki, you've chose to join us. How are you doing, Nikki?
I
You're
am
muted.
doing, I am doing exceptionally well. Greetings, everyone. Hello, Eni, Matt, and Michelle, and Michael. Greetings, greetings. Um,
Hello, Nikki. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you. I wanted to come in at this moment and chime in about giving so much and having to, or deciding rather, to distance yourself so that you don't continue to give out, not because you don't care anymore or because you can't afford to care, but essentially the reciprocity isn't present. And all relationships require and need some reciprocity. It doesn't have to be 50-50. It doesn't have to be, 45-55. Because the thing is that just like in romantic relationships, you're not always going to be at the same spot. But what happens is over time in relationships, and especially when they are not romantic, because of the familiarity that you have with someone, be it friendship, which especially that friendship ties into some sort of business alignment, right? What happens is after you've poured out so much of yourself, at some point in time, yourself begins to cry out from within, causing you to reflect on what's not being given to you. And that reflection is a self-check moment. It's a monitor, it's a thermometer, and we all need that. Without that, there is no engagement. Without any engaging, what happens is you become someone that is like a city without walls. You have no borders.
Have to unmute first. That's why I asked the boundaries question earlier, right? We must have boundaries, Nikki. I agree with you on that one. It's a hard one, in terms of there's a reality that we expect, and we have a right to expect empathy from others, especially if we're that way inclined. Maybe, and if I'm empathetic, then I would like to think if I need, then I'll have people who will be empathetic towards me as well, Nikki. I agree with that. But how that works out is always a mystery, right? Like you said, it's not always the same people, same person who will show you kindness that you show others. Some people are just takers. They're that a victim mentality. How do we change that? Beyond saying have a mix of people in your circle, some who give, some who take, some who support. I'm saying, how else can we do it? Matt, Michelle,
And get the
Michael.
conversation with them not being a victim, but that you want to help them to achieve the badge of being a survivor. Conversation is different when you're talking to a victim versus a survivor. Approach the conversation that they're not the victim because you're talking to them and they've already got through it. They survived it. Now, have the conversation in that appropriate tone.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think that's why I showed the false empathy video earlier, because it's easy to think you are being helpful when in fact you are being self-centered and you are looking at the other person in a strange kind of way as a victim rather than being, someone who is being wronged by circumstance or by people. Now, Cesario, welcome, Caesar. I'm glad you're here. Ashif, I agree with you. An empty jar comes full to fill. It's true. So we have to look after ourselves. We really must. We must. But empathy is a huge topic, and it's a vital skill for every business person. Again, you find that the higher you go up in any company, the nicer the people are. They have more empathy. They have more kindness. And so I'm not going to ask where are you in the scale of things. I'm saying that you want to be one of those nicer people as well, right? We can argue whether other people got there by being kind, or whether they suddenly found kindness when they got to the top. I think we'll never know, right? No, but I think let's make kindness our superpower, literally. Because with kindness, with compassion, with true empathy, we get what we want. That's the trick. That's all I care about, really. I care about, we all have goals, and if you want your goals to be satisfied, then treat people with kindness. You'd be amazed what happens. If you've got it, then do it more. But if you haven't got it, the simple trick to find kindness is not rocket science. Kindness in the empathy sense, it comes down to, as it was said many times so far today, Listen, listen, listen. Have an honest conversation with people. As Michelle's been saying, honest conversation. That's where you're listening, you're asking questions, you're feeding back what you're understanding, and just to clarify that what you're hearing is what you're hearing. Many of us are happy. We make assumptions and we jump to leaps of beliefs and beliefs of understanding. Now, when it comes to being a genuinely kind person, don't do that. Now, listen to what the other person's saying. Now, be there for the conversation. See what you can learn from them, and they'll normally tell you what help they need, if they need any help at all. A lot of people they don't actually want help. They just want someone to listen and make them feel better that someone's actually heard them. That's a business, and even in our personal lives. We can all develop empathy, my friends. And say, if we can learn that listening, if we can learn to truly understand, if we can learn to be, maybe, part of me wants to say, now look at the verbal cues, because a lot of people won't say many things that they're really thinking or feeling, right? I'm being open-minded. The point about, do we share our vulnerability? This is a Michelle conversation. At best of times, nah, I won't. But then the benefit, if I share my vulnerability, it encourages you to share more about what you're really thinking or feeling, right? I get that. That's
off camera.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I'm never going to show the real me, unless it's a private conversation with someone. Say, no, would you really show the real you? Matt, would you show the real you every day of the week? The vulnerable side of you?
I do that almost every single conversation that I have with every person that I've had a conversation with from LinkedIn. And there's probably a few people in the audience who would probably vouch for that. Yeah. There is an integral part of me that, and we're back to this empathy thing about what I was saying earlier about there is a lot of things that I've been through, and we're talking just before about this fake empathy, this misaligned empathy that potentially I could say, well, I've been through this and you're going through that, and we can get together on that level, right? And the guy in the video would disagree with that and say, no, see, you don't understand the situation. But the commonality, the unity between the two things, where I'm not judging what the other person is going through or saying, well, yeah, that's that, but I went through this and this must be what that is. But the openness to understand that everybody has their own experiences in life, their own trajectory, their own journey, their own velocity through their journey of life, brings you to an understanding of who you are, where you've been, where you're at, and where you're going. And again, back to just something that you were saying before, I very much have a purpose in life, right? And that makes it different for me to look at the way that things are and should be. And that's not from a point of judgment or thinking that in some egotistical way, I've got this. I don't really care that I've got this. And again, there's people in the comments or in the audience who very much know this, right? It's the fact that that isn't what's important. What's important is the success of people. And understanding that many people see many different problems and see some problems, but not other problems. But we all see something that's not quite right anymore, right? And those things add up to us to make us start thinking something's not right. And then more people will realize that. And the more that we realize that things are not right, the more that we can set about making a change, a bit like we were saying with Coach earlier, about making a change where education needs changing. But then Michelle made the wonderful point that we need to change it all. We need to change everything. The change is not going to happen from changing one little thing. And that is why all of those things exist. Because if we change one thing, it is not enough, and it is not change.
And it's not to discredit the good work people do by any means.
Not at all.
But it's just to look at history and patterns, what Matt is saying is very true. When you look at the data and when you can analyze it and you can look at the what the repetition is, people are doing great work addressing what their areas are of expertise. But collectively, we need to come together and share all individual and like expertise spots to come up with collective global resolutions.
If I can, Michelle, like about this plasters thing, like we're getting to the point, and this is no judgment about the people that are trying to stick the plasters on, or going to the shop to try and buy the plasters, or realizing that the plasters are no longer big enough to cover the cuts that are appearing on our collective body, or whatever way you want to view that. But we're running out the plasters. The plasters are getting definitely more expensive in the shops. The stock is running out in the shops, and there's more people who need those plasters nowadays, right? So we need to think about that problem, not about sticking the plasters on, but about coming up with a cure. And again,
I appreciate and I love your humanity. That's probably the best way to describe it. You know, I'm more like Michael. We are self-centered empaths. That's possible.
If you're self-centered, realize that there is problems in the world. Realize that those problems are not 1,000 miles away. They are on your doorstep. And whether you'd like to accept that or not, you have a child at home, a 16-year-old, who you want to spend time with. But you're not going to be able to spend more time with them because of the way that the trajectory of society is going and the things that are going to come to bear in the next year or two. No, I'm sorry, like I shouldn't really get carried away.
I think it changes the role of empathy and that what sets others apart to being different types of empaths. Because like Annie said, of being like the self-centered more empath, and then like Matt and I, the humanitarian empath, that's like myself is I do believe that the things I do today, I don't do them expecting to get the success or the rewards of what I do today. I do it because I wholeheartedly believe I will have enough impact and ripple effect globally. My child, and the future generations to come should not have to live through what we are living through if I have given it my all. Because when you throw that pebble into the pond and you get that one circle, it will make more. And that's how I personally do my life.
Michael, you tell us how you do your empathy, Michael. Michael, we can't hear you.
It's not a yes or no.
Okay. You good? No, okay. It's talking. No, mute your phone.
Listening to this, guys.
Yeah, no, I'll mute the phone for a second. When you're ready, on mute. Now, Nikki, what's your final take for us to learn from when it comes to? Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, Michael. We can hear you.
Okay. All right. Before you go on, Michelle Ramos was dictating, who was who. So Matt and Michelle are what? Humanitarian, empathic intelligence.
They're nice people, Matt.
Yeah, I was just saying I was reflecting on Annie saying he was self-centered empathy.
Oh no, we're losing you somewhere. All right, now, Michael, we're losing you somewhere. And I said, Nikki, the question is, what's the last thing you want to leave us with when it comes to empathy and how to develop empathy today? Yeah, Michael's signal fell off.
The last thing, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now perfectly.
Great. The last thing I want to leave you with when it comes to empathy is know that especially if you are an empathic, or if you're an empath, right, is that you must still have some reserves for yourself and have boundaries. Establish boundaries for yourself, because as much as you want to pour out into others and be a support system for others, you can also be a supply for energy vampires. And what you don't want to do is cause yourself harm because you're giving out to someone else and to others, that you become so depleted that you are self-destructive. And that's in any relationship, in any regards.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Again, I guess I'll turn back to Ash's point earlier. You can't pour from an empty jug. So we have to learn to, save our, again, it has to, so, and have value our energy, value, what, understand the value we give, and also the impact should be reciprocating. Actually, if I agree with you, reciprocating is always an issue for me, because imagine if you help someone who is in need. It's hard to expect them to suddenly be a giver without a drastic change in the circumstance, right? No, Michelle? No?
Absolutely not.
So I've got my friend.
This is where there gets to be a fine line of what I don't do things expecting things in return, but what is it if you are assisting someone? Okay, my circumstance, we went through a fire, full loss, out of my control. We had literally, in the blink of an eye, watched a fire destroy every single physical aspect of life. Right? So, like, if you were to turn around and help me to rebuild, but then you wanted something to be given in return, like, I can give to the other families that was in that building and lost. As far as listening, I can help with whatever we can do as far as cooking meals. Like, there's ways that you can give and it not be in the way you received, and it still be just as valuable. The expectation shouldn't be determined. The value that is determined should be done by the person and the capability of what can be done, not what was given to them.
And I can understand where you're coming from. I think, Jades has a good point, which I think we should bear in mind. Michael, I'll come to you next so you can have your big message, last word. She said, thank you for the insightful conversation and the perspective shared. Empathy for me starts with myself. Being kind and loving with my being. I agree entirely. That way of being affects and nurtures my environment, radiating from overflow. I agree with you. Every word you say, Chase. Chase is one of my co-authors on my book. The lesson learned from COVID book. Actually, so some
Like, are you
amazing
looking
book.
for worth or are you looking for value? They're two different things.
No, I think it's who's who. That's what comes down to with me, right? Saying that all of you here, I would be astonished if you came and said any I need. I'll be looking at you going, that's not the person I know. It doesn't mean I want to help you. I'm just saying, who your friends are who need. Who your friends are who give. If you don't, then spend some time really talking to them and really getting to know who's who. Because some people would never, in their wildest days, ask you for help. They'll never play the victim card. They'll never play the needy person. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that there's many that we all know who play victim all day. They always want. But the ones who give don't tend to want as much. Somehow. It sounds rather strange, but that's the reality of the world I live in. I know who are my doing friends, who are my wanting friends, who are my in between friends. You should know who yours are too. Michael, we lost you. Wow, sorry, Matt.
I'm not
Matt,
sure where I in that group of friends.
Don't worry. I know where you fit on my scale. It's all right, man. You know, I won't tell you in public. It's fine. But you know, you're right at the top, so it's all right. In the house.
Thanks. I
All right,
believe
so
it. Mhm.
it's all right. You know, no. So again, see, this is true kindness. This is true empathy. It's a sorry for your loss, Michelle. You know, look again. I say, like, it's taking the time to stop and think about someone else genuinely. That's what empathy really is. You know, Nikki didn't have to say that. I'm saying, the rest of us heard exactly what you said, Michelle. And you know, we happen to move on. You know, this happens to us every day. So now people who need, but sometimes it strikes a chord, and then we'll stop and say, right, okay, let's talk about that. Let's focus on you for a bit. Whereas other times we know it's not because we're evil. It's not because we're uncaring. You know, it just has, the circumstance somehow dictates how we respond, and it's a weird thing, right? Michael, you're back. We didn't hear your last message. I don't know whether you're back at work again. Michael, what do you want to leave us with, my friend? Oh, Matt's still typing away like you know.
Sorry.
I would say like a Cyrus, welcome, my podcast guy. Good evening, lovely people. You know what? Saves me doing it, Matt. I'm not blaming you. You know, true of weighing our giving and receiving to that shift. Each has a specific need and appreciation. It's true. It's true. But still, if you're kind, you have the right to expect people to be kind to you as well. Whoever those people are, use people as, you know, a catch-all, so to speak. You know, so look, Michael, we're going to give you another chance. If you can't speak, then we're going to have to end this show. Look, I'll say this. My next event in a couple of weeks on this room is going to be talking about this, the fifth part of emotional mastery. That's called social skills. You know, they say that the ability that we have to make people feel at ease, to feel listened to feel understood, just from what we're from, even when we first meet them. You know, some people have those social skills, and that helps us to sort of interact with others, make others feel comfortable, respected, and valued, and become our friends. You know, the social skills is not about small talk. That's not what we're going to talk about in 2 weeks' time. You know, it's understanding and connecting with others in a way that truly fosters some sense of relationship, some sense of understanding, some sense of connecting. That's where collaborations and healthy relationships come from, my friends. Whether that's at work, personal life, even social situations. So we're going to beat up social skills properly next time we meet. You know, and look, I've enjoyed today's conversation. I really have, and it's thanks to you, but thanks to you in the audience, thanks to you in the studio, you know, and thanks to you who shared my events. If you're watching on replay, my friends, I appreciate you as well. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel while you're there. Please. Yeah. YouTube is lowering its criteria for monetizing, apparently. I don't know what that means. I looked into it. It seems like when you get to 500 subscribers, they will add to the monetizing scheme, to the partner scheme, whatever they call it, right? You know, and then
everybody subscribe to my channel then, because I'm on like 480 or 90. I'm almost.
You're more than me, man. You're more than me. Damn.
Personal skills, any.
Oh, it's all right. I think that also
reciprocate the followers. So Matt send his to Annie.
Wouldn't that be good? How do we do that? Is that possible? I haven't
I,
thought of
I
that.
don't know whether I don't know how I get the subscribers who signed up to actually watch my stuff, let alone to go over to be your subscribers.
So Matt talks about the other problem, that thing called our watch hours. Apparently, so they will they'll put you in their partner program if you have 1,000 watch hours.
A month.
No, 1,000 watch hours in a year. I think that's long and short of it, right?
Okay.
But so the problem that the reason I switched off was when they said you can't join the ads revenue scheme. Normally, you need 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 watch hours. Then you can monetize YouTube and benefit from all the monetization things. Most of the money comes from ads that people watch on your shows. Right now, they said you can do now. They will add people to the monetization scheme on 500 subscribers and 1,000 watch hours. How are they going to make money? I don't. If the ads don't count, I'm kind of at a loss. Let's not worry about that. If anyone knows better, please do come and share with us. Michelle, you're thinking, and that worries me when Michelle's thinking.
I'm not even going into this topic.
Yeah, don't do that, Michelle.
Nikki,
you're a star. Nikki, we'll have to start planning your show soon, my friend. We're going to start planning your show that we're going to do together. I'll say, please go in the comments, everyone, and connect with other people, right? Connect with each other, and don't just connect, actually meet, actually have those conversations, get to know people. That's what makes LinkedIn work. That's what makes our world work. That's my message anyway. Even if I'm I'm wrong, I'll take it. But I truly believe, building relationships, honest relationships, genuine relationships is where everything stems from. What does Nikki say?
Quality over quantity.
Interpersonal skills. I didn't hear what you said, Michelle. Have a great evening, everyone.
Quantity.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree. Nikki, you're part of the gems that make this show happen these days, so I'm so glad you're here. Everyone in the audience, I can't thank you
so much. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone. Enjoy your evening. Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone. Matt, you're right in the middle. That's all right. Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone in the audience as well.
Every step forward is a new beat to your drum. Achieve success with Global.Media.com and celebrate it with or without champagne or rum. Achieve success with Global.Media.